Hey guys, welcome to Rockstars of Ethereum, a show about the journey and the awesome work people are doing in Ethereum and Web3 space as a whole, aka Rockstars of Ethereum. I'm Richa.
And I'm Harsh from Ethereum Push Notification Service. That's trial number 4, but yeah.
We'll get there. So we are really excited to welcome the maximalists from Australia, who we all tune into for our TheDailyGwei and for everything happening around Ethereum. He's known for his Ethereum news and for the awesome comic timing with which he takes dig at other blockchains. Please welcome the really awesome and the one and only Bitcoin maximalist, Anthony Sassano. Hey, Anthony, how are you doing?
Hey guys, good to be here. And that's a very interesting intro, but I like it. Really, really great. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for being here, Anthony. I mean, we start the show with the traditional how we met our guest. So I'll probably start with that. How we met Anthony. Well, we met Anthony by luck. We launched our teaser trailer of EPNS in really early days. And we invited through a tweet all the users who wanted to have access to alpha. And a few moments later, what do you know, Anthony Sassano has replied to that tweet. Of course, that meant that, we get dressed up. That was a Saturday, go to our office and try to get a demo going. And yes, as luck would have it, at that point of time, my Mac chose to stop working in terms of screen mirroring. So all I had was my phone, and I was basically talking to Anthony and I was showing him the phone, and I could make out he was squinting his eyes and he was trying to see how notifications are coming. So that was the first Sunday we interacted with Anthony. And then after that, Destiny kind of said that we will only ever talk during weekends. So here we are, another weekend and another awesome session with Anthony. So, hey, awesome, Anthony. Really happy to have you here. Before getting started, it would be great if you can tell us a bit about yourself and what are you up to?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I actually do remember the first time that we spoke. And I spoke to both of you, and you gave me that the demo and everything like that. That was really cool at the time. And honestly, like I really just loved the enthusiasm you both had about EPNS and what you were building. And I was really excited at the time to get a demo of that. But yeah, on that note, I guess a bit of what I'm doing these days, a lot of Ethereum education. I focus on something called TheDailyGwei. That maybe a lot of listeners may be aware of. That basically has a daily newsletter, a daily YouTube video every weekday, where I just kind of like keep people up to date on what's happening in the Ethereum ecosystem specifically. Because over the last few months, it's gotten just crazier and crazier to try and keep up with everything, basically impossible. So I figured I would do my best to try and help people with that sort of stuff. And outside of TheDailyGwei, I also continue to do EthHub. So I'm a co-founder of EthHub, and we do a weekly podcast, a weekly newsletter, and also have a website full of information about Ethereum. So people can check that out as well. On top of that, I do a lot of advising for different kind of Ethereum-based projects in the ecosystem, and I do a bit of investing, as an angel investor on the side as well. So basically, yeah, I mean, full-time Ethereum educator, working with as many projects as I can to help them along, including EPNS, of course, and trying to help you guys grow the project as well, and a proud investor as well in EPNS too. So yeah, definitely just trying to do what I can to, I guess, like give back to the Ethereum community, because Ethereum over the years since I got into it in early 2017 has given me so much and changed my life. So, it's my way of giving back.
Awesome. And yeah, we are really honored to have you as well, Anthony. I mean, all the solid advice that you've given us, guided us like right from the start, right? So it's just talk so much about the community and just the connections people have, real connections in the community. So yeah, thank you for everything. So you spoke about the TheDailyGwei and EthHub. So maybe if you want to talk a little bit about that, can you share a little bit about the shows and maybe what's the story behind them, and also the story behind the names, really interesting names.
Yeah, so EthHub started and as an idea that my co-founder Eric Connor and I kind of came up with. It was originally Eric's idea, I believe, and then he was looking for someone to help him with it, so I jumped on board with that. And we started building that late 2018. We launched the podcast then as well, and the newsletter I had been doing since early 2018. It was called Block by Block newsletter. It wasn't called the EthHub newsletter. And then we launched EthHub officially on January 3rd, 2019. So basically, the bottom of the bear market, ETH price was maybe $100 or something. It was a very, unpopular time to be in the Ethereum ecosystem at the time. But, since then, as I said, we've been doing a weekly newsletter, weekly podcast, have our documentation website there. And the goal really was to create like a place for people to just learn about Ethereum, because there wasn't anything like that back then. There was no Bankless, there was no the Defiant, there was no DeFi Dad, there was none of this Ethereum education or media organizations. It was really just people on crypto Twitter talking about it, and the Ethereum.org website was not even updated since 2015. It still had a lot of old information on it. So we figured that if Ethereum is to succeed and is to grow, it needs a good place for people to get the information from, and they can't just be relying on secondhand information or crypto Twitter, which was pretty messy back then. I mean, it's always messy, but it was very messy back then because you had a lot of Bitcoin maximalists, saying Ethereum was dead, and everyone was just like, well, they had no proof Ethereum was still alive. So that's kind of like how EthHub came to be. And I think the name was Eric's idea of EthHub. It was, I mean, it's pretty, I guess, self-explanatory, a hub for Ethereum, right? Nothing too fancy there. But then with the TheDailyGwei, that's just, I guess, my solo thing that I've been doing since, I guess, late 2020 or mid 2020, I launched the newsletter. And that was because I used to really enjoy writing, but, writing is something where it's very hard to motivate yourself to write something, regularly. Writing is definitely, it takes a lot out of you. It may seem counterintuitive, but it mentally, it taxes you, trying to get everything right, trying to make sure that you're relaying the correct information, hoping that you don't get something wrong and someone calls you out for it. That's always, not fun. So for me, I started the newsletter because I was like, okay, well, how do I, push myself to keep writing? I really want to keep writing about Ethereum, and how do I do it? Well, I'll make a promise to all these people that subscribe to my newsletter that I'll write something every day. And it's a short thing. It's maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs, explaining just what's happening each day, each weekday, the biggest thing that's happening, just to give people more context around it. I guess like the other day I wrote about, Vitalik and how he was selling off those dog coins and like things like that, just like the top things happening in the ecosystem. And then towards the end of last year, the end of 2020, I launched the YouTube channel as well, which is basically every weekday I do a 30-minute video just recapping what happened in the Ethereum ecosystem. So the newsletter will focus on one topic normally, whereas the YouTube video will focus on a range of things that happened, and just a way to keep people up to date like that. And I guess the name kind of came from me thinking, well, I want I want it to be a media organization. So you have like the Daily Telegraph and stuff like that, right? And then I thought, well, what's unique to Ethereum? And of course, Gwei came to mind. I didn't want to call it like the Daily Ethereum or something. That was too generic to me. So I figured TheDailyGwei sounded fun and playful, and I really wanted to center the theme of it around like that Gwei thing, so like gas and things like that. So the logo is a gas nozzle, and like I have my daily episodes are called Refuel, so getting your refuel at the gas station. So I really wanted to kind of like make a little brand out of it. So but yeah, that's the story of both EthHub and TheDailyGwei, and they continue to this day.
Amazing. And those are like really, really awesome stories. I didn't know that there was so much like storyboarding and thought around it. So it's really nice to know all of that. So Anthony, maybe just want to take a step back and, pre-crypto days. So what were you like doing before crypto, and how did Ethereum happen? So would love to understand and, know the story there as well.
Yeah, so I have I think a bit of a colorful history before Ethereum. I did a bunch of different things. Funny thing is, I actually spent a bit of time with Bitcoin in 2013 during its first run up, and I was pretty obsessed with Bitcoin back then. There was no Ethereum, of course, but I was obsessed with it. I really liked it, but then the market kind of went into a bear market, and I lost interest in it. I was much younger, had dreams in my eyes of making money, and that didn't pan out. So I was like, all right, whatever. And as I said, there wasn't any Ethereum yet. Ethereum had, I think when I in 2014, when I sold my Bitcoin and kind of like exited the ecosystem, Ethereum was just a white paper still. They hadn't done their ICO yet or anything. And I think I remember hearing about it back then just briefly. And I just kind of like didn't really pay attention to it. But then, fast forward to 2017 is when a friend told me about it because he knew I was into Bitcoin. And he goes, hey, look at this Ethereum thing. And I looked at it. I'm like, okay, wow, this is very different to Bitcoin. It does so much more. The possibilities here are endless. But during the period of, I guess, like, around that time, 2013 to 2017, I did a bunch of different things. So, and then what I mean by having a colorful history here is that I did things people may not think that I would have done. So my background is tech. I was a freelance web developer for a while, and I kind of like did that just as a way to make money for a while there. I didn't really enjoy it too much. It was just kind of a thing that I fell into. But during that time as well, I also co-founded 2 companies. One of them was a clothing company, and one of them was a men's grooming company that we did beard oils for. So 2 very, very different things. And I think I always had that entrepreneurial spirit. I always wanted to do something on my own. And make sure and grow something from scratch and just like make something successful. So that's where those kind of things came from. And then in 2016, the web development work slowed down. The companies didn't really go anywhere. It's very hard to scale up those kind of companies. We didn't raise money or anything like that. It was just something that we were doing on the side, me and some friends. But I joined a telecommunications company in Australia as a cybersecurity analyst. And that was basically shift work. So I was working, all different types of shift, like night shift included and all that stuff. And, at the time, I mean, like I was pretty happy because the money was really good. And I'm normally a night owl anyway, so I didn't mind that. But then when I discovered Ethereum in early 2017, it gave me the opportunity to learn because obviously like night shifts are quieter and things like that. So it gave me the opportunity to really study in my downtime about that sort of stuff. So, and then I actually stayed at that job until mid 2019. So I didn't work in crypto until mid 2019, but I continued to do things on the side, make sure I stayed up to date with it, make sure I stayed in the ecosystem. And then I joined Set in mid 2019 to do marketing, which again, isn't my background. And I don't even have a finance background either. So all of everything that I've kind of learned and done in the ecosystem has just been doing it on my own. I haven't really gone to school for anything. I was never someone who learned very well at school or university. I couldn't focus. I was always distracted by something. But that's basically, I guess, a bit of a history before I kind of was doing what I'm doing today.
Awesome. I mean, this is amazing. Like the whole variety and the area of things that you have dabbled into, done, and here we are. So amazing to know all of those different facets of your life. So thanks for sharing that. Also on that note, I always wanted to ask, never had the opportunity. I wanted to know what's the secret behind the trademark hat or the cap that you wear. So that's something which has always intrigued me. Yeah, would you mind sharing that as well?
Yeah, so I it's funny because I've been wearing this to parties or bars that I used to go to when I was younger. It just became part of my look. I think it was because I lost my hair or started losing my hair when I was 19. I don't really mind being bald. Like I'm bald under the hat. Like some people will know that, right? I don't mind it, right? But for me, it was just like and then I grew the beard out and everything like that. And then I wore this hat and I have this picture that I use everywhere of myself that basically is the same across everywhere online that was taken when I was wearing the hat. And then, that just became part of my brand. So I'm like, I'll lean into it. I'll make sure that it just remains part of the brand. People recognize me. It was funny. I went to a conference an Ethereum conference, EdCon in early 2019. And the first day I went, I wasn't actually wearing the hat and no one recognized me. No one. And then as soon as I went up to them and introduced myself, they're like, oh, I know you from Twitter. And then the next day I wore the hat and everyone recognized me. So it became part of my brand. And ever since it's just stuck with me. But that's kind of how the hat came to be.
That's so awesome. And you can probably trademark it as well, like a DailyGwei hat. That would be really cool as merchandise as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just moving to a little more controversial question. So what if in your life, Ethereum, or in all our lives, Ethereum stopped existing? So which blockchain do you think you would reluctantly start, you would talk about, and where would your mind go?
That is a tough question. I have actually never thought about this before. I have thought about like things like what would happen if Ethereum stopped existing at all, and what would I do without Ethereum? And honestly, I don't know what I'd do, and I don't know what other chain I would go to at this stage. Not that I consider myself an Ethereum maximalist, but none of the other chains do what Ethereum does. Like none of them are nowhere near as decentralized or secure, or they don't have the same community at all. They have basically no community really. Not much is happening on there. Maybe people will say, oh, why don't you go to Bitcoin? It's like, well, I mean, Bitcoin isn't the same thing. Like Bitcoin's doesn't have smart contracts. So what am I supposed to do with Bitcoin? Right. So yeah, I haven't actually, I don't actually know. Like, I'm just thinking through my head of different projects like Cardano, no, right? Like, Polkadot, Solana, no, not really. I mean, these are all very young projects too, so they haven't actually had time to grow and improve themselves or anything like that. Like, and the ones that have been around for a while, like EOS, I mean, in my eyes, they've kind of failed, right? They haven't really gotten themselves a community, haven't grown. So I really don't know where I would go without Ethereum. And it's definitely a tough question. I mean, I'm just scrolling through like CoinGecko right now, trying to find something. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's any other home that I could find really. That's a bit of a sad thought maybe, but I think Ethereum's going to be around forever. So yeah, I guess like that's the happy part.
Yeah, that's the happy place for I think all of us in.
We hope so too. The name basically has it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So, I mean, we all know that you're based out of Australia, but, I've always wondered, like, so you're one of the very few educators and people who share awareness for crypto from Australia. So are there any, special like provisions, or are there any challenges that you face, while working from that side of the globe? When we actually know like a lot of events and news that actually breaks is from the other side of the world. So how does that work out? And what's your experience been, in that respect?
Yeah, so the main challenge is the time zone difference, of course, because when I'm sleeping, the US has their business hours. So they're essentially, just starting their day. So what ends up happening is I'll wake up. I usually wake up at 10, 11 a.m. I'm more of a night owl, as I said. So I usually wake up at that time. But, by that time, it's like nighttime in the US and everyone's off work and Europe is asleep. So really, it's just me and Asia at the end of the day. And Asia has like Asia has a big crypto community, but the language barrier is there as well. So I'm not really across what's happening in Asia. And of course, India is part of the same time frame as well. But most of the news you see come out of like the US and Europe. So what ends up happening is I have to spend like legitimately 2 to 3 hours every morning catching up with everything that I've missed, responding to messages, responding to emails, all that sort of stuff. So, and that is definitely a challenge. And I didn't experience what it was like without that difference until I went to San Francisco when I was with the set team. I went there and I worked from there, and it was very, very different because I'd wake up and nothing really had happened because I was waking up on the same time as everyone else. And I didn't have to spend a couple of hours catching up. And it was very weird. And I actually do like the time zone difference, to be honest, because it lets me structure my day where I don't actually have to spend most of my day, going crazy over things. Like it's really just like, probably until maybe like if I get up at like 10 o'clock, maybe until like 12, 1 o'clock, depending on the day. And then after that, like most of it calms down and like the US, in Europe are asleep. And then I can just structure my day in a much better way there. But, it was funny because when I was trying to grow my Twitter, I realized that I have to post tweets like really early morning or really late at night to get the engagement that I wanted, because that's when everyone was active. So it was a positive because when I was working in cybersecurity, I actually got off shift work in, I think it was like, what was it? Early 2018, I got off shift work and I started working really early. So I would get up at 6 a.m. and that would give me time to basically be active at the same time as most people, so that I could do, I could get more engagement on things. I could be, talk to more people and have more time to do stuff in the morning. So yeah, I think that would be the challenge that I had to work through and find a balance, but it worked out in the end. And I think it's just unavoidable. I love living where I am. I don't really plan to move anywhere else. Now that I'm used to the time zone thing as well, I don't really mind. But yeah, I guess that would be the main challenge, I think.
Yeah, I was going to actually ask, have you ever considered like moving to the US because of, all the action and, all the news that comes out around the hours?
Not necessarily. No, I mean, I probably did like early on, like when I first started at Set, because I figured it would be easier. But now that I'm like a free agent, I have no reason to move anywhere. And it would also be very hard to uproot my life. I mean, as you can see behind me, I have a lot of possessions and stuff. I couldn't bring these things with me, and I have a lot of family and friends here. And there's just really, I mean, that's the amazing thing about crypto is that you don't actually have to move anywhere anymore. You can just work from anywhere in the world and have the same opportunity as everyone else, right? Like, you know, yeah, exactly. You guys know in India, it's the same thing, right? You didn't have to move to the US to start EPNS. You can work from India. You were able to raise money and everything like that. So that is I think a positive that isn't talked about enough, is that you don't actually have to uproot your life anymore to be successful in this industry.
Yep. So actually, one of the really funny story is that because of COVID, we moved to my hometown, which is a very, very small hometown. And no one would have heard about raising and startups over here. And, we raised our funds right from this small hometown. We're probably the first company to do it from here.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Putting that town on the map.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think it's my turn to ask questions, Anthony. I'll start with Polygon. You have recently joined Polygon as an advisor. But what is Polygon, Anthony?
Yeah. So I think, it's funny. I think some people get confused about what Polygon is. I see it on Twitter sometimes. So Polygon is basically a scalability suite. So like a scalability Swiss knife. They currently have a couple of solutions live, but they're working on other ones as well. So what they currently have live is two things: the Polygon plasma chain, or the Matic plasma chain, and the Polygon POS chain, because Polygon was previously Matic. So the one with the most usage and the one that everyone talks about these days is the Polygon POS chain. In the future, they plan to build other scalability solutions like optimistic rollups and ZK rollups and all the ones we've all heard about before. So the reason I think there's a bit of drama is people saying, what is the Polygon POS chain? Is it a separate blockchain? Is it a side chain? Is it, all this sort of stuff? And it's a bit of a hybrid where the actual technology, is its own kind of chain, in that it has its own validators that stake, Matic tokens and produce blocks, but it also has all of the staking logic and everything that controls that lives on the Ethereum blockchain. So the smart contract lives on the Ethereum blockchain, and all the reward payouts are done there. The Matic token is native to Ethereum and all that sort of stuff. And the POS chain also commits itself to Ethereum every so often as kind of like a save state. So it kind of like commits its state to Ethereum there. Now, and I think the reason it's had so much growth lately is, I mean, the Polygon team is awesome from a business development perspective. They are really hungry and really awesome people that go out there and really want to help Ethereum scale. So that's what they've been doing. And also, they're the only generalized EVM compatible, scaling solution for Ethereum right now, because obviously, we have Arbitrum and Optimism coming out, but they're not live just yet, right? In any big way. Whereas Polygon is. And what Polygon did really smart as well is they played it nice with the Ethereum community. They didn't position themselves as an Ethereum competitor. They didn't say they're an Ethereum killer. They said, we are here to scale Ethereum. And this is the impression I got when I was first talking to them before I joined as an advisor. They were very, very Ethereum aligned. They love Ethereum so much. They all, have massive kind of investments in ETH and things like that, hold a lot of ETH tokens and stuff like that, and really want to see Ethereum succeed and in any way possible. And I think they also would love to see the POS chain transition to a rollup when the technology is ready. But they come at things from a practical point of view. What technology is ready today? Because the demand to use the Ethereum network is so high. People want scaling. So why not just do this for now and then transition to something else later once the technology proves itself? And they care a lot about user funds security and stuff like that as well, making sure that the technology is sound. It doesn't kind of like break on the users or anything like that. So I think from that's why Polygon has seen so much success lately, is in part to that, but also their business development. They've landed some of the top DeFi apps now, right? Like Aave and Curve and MStable and 1inch and Slingshot. There's a lot of apps on there now. And yeah, their growth has spoken for themselves. And obviously, like, the token price has gone up too, so people get excited about that as well. But yeah, Polygon, as I said, is a suite of solutions. But right now, the POS chain is what's live, what's working, and over time they're going to release more and more solutions, and that's going to be really cool as well. So I think people miss the human aspect to it, where there's technologically aligned kind of projects, and then there's like socially aligned as well. Because you can imagine if something like Binance Smart Chain positioned themselves as friendly to Ethereum and wanted to help Ethereum, whatever, the community would have viewed them a little bit more favorably. But you had like CZ on Twitter saying, we're going to flip Ethereum. Well, I mean, the community is not going to say, oh, that's all well and good. They're not going to be your friend. It's like, the way I view it is like each of these networks are like nations, right? Like, say like a country or whatever. And if one nation says to another nation, well, we're going to, basically put sanctions on you. Well, they're not going to play nice with each other then at the end of the day. But if they say we want to form an alliance, we want to do like trade deals, we want to help each other, well, then of course they're both going to be reciprocal to that. So I think that's the key thing that Polygon did right, was they positioned themselves correctly, and they really do like and believe in Ethereum, and they're not trying to be a parasite. They're trying to be an additive kind of thing to Ethereum.
Awesome. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I know Polygon, they have been really, really awesome. Both in terms of, being an Ethereum maximalist. I mean, I have heard them say that a couple of times. And and yet, I mean, actually, if you look at the social side of it, also the social cause, so they recently have been responsible, or Sandeep, who is one of their co-founder, he has been responsible in heading the biggest COVID relief of India. And Vitalik just donated $1 billion worth of Shiba coins to it. So yeah.
That fund was great. I mean, we were talking a little bit before about it, but basically it just shows the power of crypto and how people can come together all around the world to help in any way possible. And there's no need for like, complicated stuff or anything like that. You just send some crypto to an address, and it doesn't matter what chain it was. I saw Sandeep set up addresses for like every chain. It didn't matter what it was. You just send funds in, and he was kind of organizing it and making sure it's going to the right people. So yeah, that was really awesome to see as well.
Awesome. Yep. So, Anthony, tell us a bit about the team and the culture while you work in Polygon.
Yeah, so I alluded to it a little bit about how they're as you said, Ethereum maximalists. They're really Ethereum aligned. But from what I've kind of like my I guess work with them and being on calls and like following along in Telegram groups and things like that, they are very, very hard workers. They awesome. Like, as I said, they're very strong with business development, where they'll reach out to projects proactively and kind of present a case to them. It's like, hey, your project should be on Polygon because of this, and this reason, and we can help you set up. And, they're available all the time. Like, as long as they're not sleeping, they're online, they're available, they're grinding, they're working very hard, and they've been doing this for a very long time now. And, they're always signaling on Twitter about kind of how aligned they are with Ethereum and wanting to see Ethereum succeed and helping it along. And so from that point of view, that's the kind of culture. The culture is hardworking, caring, like very caring, not hardworking just for the sake of it and to, make lots of money. They actually care, and they want to help this ecosystem along. They want to help Ethereum scale in any way possible. So that's exactly what they're doing. And I remember my first conversation with them was awesome, because they were talking about like, how do we tell people this? Like, how do we relay this information to people? Because obviously with my marketing background, people will come to me for advice like that. And I just told them like, well, you're already doing the right thing by being Ethereum aligned. Keep doing that, and people will be open to you. And that's exactly what's happened. Like, all the Ethereans are very happy with Polygon. They like Polygon. They love the team. They love what they're doing, and they embrace them. Because I had seen what happens when you don't do that. When you act hostile towards Ethereum, you are treated as an Ethereum killer, and then the entire Ethereum community doesn't want anything to do with you, and they'll actively go out of their way to point out your flaws, to kind of like ridicule you, and you just won't get that adoption. And I think Polygon, is one of the most used blockchains outside of Ethereum right now, in terms of like, I guess like overall usage, and that's not by accident. I think Ethereans trust Polygon. They trust what's going on there. They're happy having their funds on there, and the apps trust them as well. And that's what really counts. The apps and developers wanting to build their products on there. And again, that all comes down to the culture, breeding a good culture, breeding a good social layer for these platforms. And that's always been Ethereum's strength, and Polygon has now emulated that. And I think that's why they're winning.
Yep. I mean, no. I love Ethereum for the community. You want if you ever want help, just ask Ethereum community, and everyone will basically come and help you guys out. I mean, it happened with us, with Anthony coming and helping us out. So yeah, moving a bit to your investor side, Anthony. What are the tips you give out to projects that want to get funded, and how can other projects reach out to you?
Yeah, so it's funny because it's a bull market. Money is not an issue right now in the ecosystem. From the rounds that I've been in, they've typically been what's called oversubscribed. So there's just too much money for what the team wants to raise. So yeah, capital is not an issue, I think, right now. But for teams that are raising or wanting to raise, I would suggest that they be very careful about who they take money from, because there's certain investors, and I'm not going to name anyone, but there's certain investors and funds that you don't want to be taking money from for various reasons, whether that be because they're just not going to be very helpful, or they're actively going to be detrimental because they're just in it for the money. They don't actually care about kind of helping you or whatever. So that's what you always got to be careful of. And you have to be careful about like how many, I think, investors that you let in. Like if you let in too many investors, then it becomes a bit of a mess. And you want to make sure that you let in people, especially on the angel investor side, they call them strategic partners, that can actually help you, that can help you on across a wide range of different things. So what I do when I invest in different companies and different projects is I tend to help on the marketing community side, because that's where I'm very strong in. And obviously like my brand helps them as well, like having me aligned with them and helping them out there. And I have like a large network too. So, and then some other angels have different things. Like there's some that are really big in the developer community and they can help there. You typically see people like Stani and Kane being involved in different rounds, and obviously having different DeFi founders on board means that you can do integrations easier and like, making it all easier like that. So but yeah, for projects that kind of like want me on board, I mean, generally it's mostly they just reach out to me. I have a meeting with them, then I decide if it's kind of like worth it or not. Because at the end of the day, it's not really about my money. It's really about what I can do for the project, how I can help, and if I actually want to be involved with the project. Because there are obviously projects that come to me and I don't think they're good, or I think they're a little bit dodgy, and I don't want to be involved with that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of like the overview of how that happens from an angel investor side of things.
Awesome. Nicely put. And actually, speaking of dodgy, so we can probably move to embarrassing section of the interview. So again, speaking of dodgy and scam, I mean, I was embarrassed to admit this before, but I have been scammed like at least twice in my early days. One of the most embarrassing story I have is and this happened around 2018. So it happened like Ethereum mining, like somewhere in Greenland, has the most efficient mining energy, and you can just send them 1 Ethereum and you'll get 5 back. And yes, of course, I sent 1 Ethereum to them, and it hurts a little bit more every day when I go to CMC and see that the Ethereum price are going up. So that's my embarrassing story, Anthony. What is yours, or have you come like very close to getting scammed?
Yeah, I have one story from 2017 when I was first getting involved in my first ICO. I didn't know how they worked or anything. So what I ended up doing was I sent 5 ETH to the ICO address from an exchange. So, people may not know, but if you send something from an exchange, the tokens will go to the exchange address because it's coming from their hot wallet. It's not actually coming from your wallet. So what ended up happening was the exchange got my tokens from the ICO And then it was Poloniex. And I don't know if you remember, Poloniex during 2017 was one of the biggest exchanges, and they were overwhelmed by support requests. So no one looked at my support requests, and I never got my tokens because it just like became overwhelmed. So I lost 5 ETH, which is now worth 20 grand. At the time, it wasn't worth that much, but it now hurts a lot because like that's a lot of money now that I lost doing just a stupid, silly noob mistake. But yeah, I think everyone has their story like that as well. And I know there's a lot of people that have done that have gotten scammed too, unfortunately, through these different dodgy things. And especially in bull markets, where people get like a little bit greedy and they think, oh wow, I could do this, I can make some money here. But even before that, in 2013, I used to get dumped on in some like pump and dumps, trying to trade Bitcoin for things in 2013. So we've all been there. I remember Doge was one of those that I got pump and dumped on back in the day. I should have held my Doge from 2014, early 2014 to today, because back then it wasn't worth much, but I had millions and millions of Doge back then, and now it's worth like a lot, so 50 cents or whatever. But my most embarrassing is definitely sending ETH from an exchange to an ICO contract.
Yep. And Dogecoin, I mean, yeah, much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. I mean, one advice I have for the new crypto users is that, if someone says that you only have 2 hours to do something, chances are you should not do that. What would be your advice to new crypto users or new Ethereum users?
Yeah, it's hard because usually you say to people, if it's too good to be true, then it's probably a scam or it's probably, fake or whatever. But sometimes things in crypto are too good to be true, and they're actually true. Like you think about the uni airdrop. Like imagine telling people that you were airdropped all these tokens, per address that you used on Uniswap, and now they're worth like thousands of dollars or whatever it is, whatever the current uni price is. So when you tell someone, oh well, this is too good, this sounds too good to be true, it might actually be true. So what I usually tell people is that anyone who's ever asking you for money and sending and promising to give money back, that's 100% a scam, like 100% of the time, right? And also when you're looking at public sales for different projects, really do your research into it, because a lot of like projects, they might seem good on the surface, but really they're just pump and dump, where they're just going to take your money. The token's just not going to be worth much, and you're going to get stuck holding the bag, as they say, for these tokens. But yeah, it's unfortunate because there's actually a lot of ways to get scammed in crypto and a lot of ways to lose your money in crypto. Like everyone talks about, oh, you can make so much money, but like you can lose it just as easily if you're not careful, especially if you're a trader or trying to be a trader. You can lose money very, very quickly because everyone's trying to sell you a narrative or a story or whatever. And you never know what their real motive is because they're not going to admit it to you. And even people who you think are legit and think that are serious, they're underneath. There could be scammers as well, or it could be people that are just trying to take advantage of others. So I guess the real advice is just to treat everything with like skepticism. Make sure that even if something turns out to be really good, at least do some research into it and at least, be comfortable with it, and don't just FOMO in or whatever, or ape in, as they say, because that can end in loss of funds, more often than not.
I mean, that's good advice. I mean, I've had one investor say that to me, that the only way they are going to invest in the project is if they understand the project. If they don't understand the project, even if that means that the project is technologically way advanced for them, they will pass it out, no matter if it becomes 10x or 100x or, whatever. So, yep, completely agree. So yeah, moving to the last question, Anthony, I know that you support a lot of projects on Gitcoin Grant, and you have supported us and several equally awesome projects. I would love to get a EILI 5 from you for all the projects and why they should come on Gitcoin Grant, and for all the users and why they should donate for their favorite projects.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Gitcoin Grants is amazing. For people who may not be aware of what Gitcoin Grants is, it's basically a kind of like section of Gitcoin where people can set up grants and accept donations. And that might be just standard, but the special part is that there's this thing called matching rounds. So every quarter, Gitcoin will do a matching round, and there'll be matching funds up for grabs. And what will end up happening is that you can get these matching funds can multiply depending on how many people donate to you. So the more unique people that donate to you and the smaller part of the donation, it can multiply these donations by a lot. So for example, if a grant is very popular, a $1 donation can actually end up being a $200 match. So your $1 goes a long way. So it basically empowers the smaller guys and the smaller people to fund their favorite projects. And the reason why you would fund projects is because a lot of these projects are open source. They don't have a token. They don't have any funding, and they basically rely on donations to keep going and to keep building stuff. And it's a way for people to give back as well. So the TheDailyGwei is on there. I actually don't do any monetization on the TheDailyGwei at all. There's no ads, no sponsors, no subscriptions. It's all completely free. And I just have my grant there for people who want to support me and donate to me. But like, yeah, as you say, EPNS started on there as well. And like that gave you the funds to kind of build on early on too. But for projects that want to get on there, it is great. I mean, it's a very good way to bootstrap yourself before you raise money from anyone. It's like, build out your MVP and then you can kind of like sustain yourself like that and focus on it. And then you can go raise funds later if that's what you want to do as well. So that's why it's very good for people to, who want to set up grants too. But the hard part, I guess, is these days is that there's a lot of grants on there now. So it becomes a little bit harder to get funding these days because you have to kind of compete. But the Gitcoin team is trying to find ways all the time to make it fairer and make it easier for people to find these good grants too. But still, if you and as someone who wants to donate, you should donate. You should go on there, look through all the projects and donate to ones that you use all the time and donate to them to make sure that they are getting like, some monetary reward out of it, because a lot of the stuff in this ecosystem is available for free and it doesn't have a token on it either. So it's always good to support those projects.
Awesome. Nicely put. All right, Anthony, I mean, this part of the interview is done. We do have a surprise part of the interview coming up, which I will take care of. Is just a set of rapid questions, and which I will probably describe the rules. And yeah, off to you, Richa.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So like it's fairly simple, Anthony, just rapid questions. You probably take 5 to 10 seconds to answer them. We'll just have some fun on a Saturday morning, afternoon. All right, so here we go. So the first question. Australia is amazing, we all know. And there are some really awesome memes that show really big spiders everywhere. Have you ever seen something like that will do justice to those memes?
Not in real life, but I know that they're out there. The biggest spiders are in the outback. I live in the suburbs, but they do exist. They're the biggest spider. It's pretty big. It's not like I've seen the memes. Some of them are like really, really big, but there are some pretty big spiders around, but usually they're in the outback on the farms and things like that. So they don't have to worry about that in the suburbs.
Got it. Can you show us something which is on your workspace right now?
Anything? I guess. Oh, geez, what have I got around me right now? Got lots of stuff around me. I got this actually, this haiku book. So basically, it's a collection of haikus from the Reddit section of ETH Finance. They have a daily thread that they do, and someone was doing a haiku every day about Ethereum, and then a few people put together this book, and it's got a haiku in there every day, and you can read it. So yeah, really cool little book here.
That's really awesome. Cool. What is the most useless talent you have?
Oh man, you put me on the spot. Useless talent. Oh geez, I don't know what my most useless talent is. Maybe I can blink with both eyes. Does that count? Like wink with both eyes? I don't know if that's useless or not, but that's all I can think of right now.
That's useless enough.
Yeah.
Okay. And Anthony, you just before we started, you were talking about the huge collection that you have at the back. What's the story behind it? Because we've seen all those pictures on Twitter, so would love to know what's the story behind that.
Yeah, I didn't like not until recently, I didn't used to be like a collector of figurines and things, but I went to Japan for DevCon in late 2019. I went to Tokyo, and there's a kind of like a section in Tokyo called Akihabara, which is basically like you got different kind of like figurine shops and like anime stuff and video games and all this sort of stuff. And I just started buying lots of these little figurines there, and then I bought a lot of it, and then I found out there was bigger ones when I looked online, and then I just started buying the bigger ones. And yeah, they're basically from like mostly from an anime called One Piece, which is one of my favorites. And yeah, I don't know, it's just I just like collecting them basically, and it started back then in late 2019, so relatively recently.
Awesome. And how many do you think you have collected so far?
A lot. There's the smaller ones. I mean, in this case here behind me, there's probably like 30 of them in there. And then the bigger ones, I have about 5. They're outside of this room, obviously. But then I have much more coming. They're all on pre-order, so I still buy more. I'm running out of space for them, really. But yeah, it's fun to collect them.
Yeah, they look super awesome. Okay, next one. Would you rather be 10 minutes late or 20 minutes early at a place?
20 minutes early. I'm always the person who's really early to everything.
That's amazing. Okay, dogs or cats?
Dogs, definitely dogs.
Awesome. Your most awaited milestone of 2021?
EIP 1559 and the merge. Both of them equally. I can't pick.
Awesome. Okay, final section. Just tell me the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the following words. DeFi?
Ethereum.
Of course. Crypto Twitter?
Memes.
All right. EIP 1559?
Burning ETH.
Bitcoin?
Maximalists.
Yep. Your top 3 projects of Ethereum are?
Oh, wow. That's put me on the spot. So I think Alchemix. I really like Alchemix. It's one of my favorite projects. Index Co-op. I'm actually involved with that through Set. So Index Co-op / Set protocol. And I guess Polygon as well has become, but it's hard to pick a top 3 because there's so many that I'm involved with or follow closely. But of course, EPNS is up there as well. I think.
Hey, thanks, Anthony. And yeah, we never asked you to say that though, but yeah, but thanks.
No, I that's what I said. It's hard to pick 3. There's so many good projects.
So many. Of course. And finally, Anthony, what does Ethereum mean to you?
Freedom. That's
Yep,
it. Freedom. Like that describes the whole thing. Everything we're doing is more freedom, economic freedom, social freedom, political freedom. All that is what Ethereum is. So I think that's the one word I use to describe Ethereum.
Awesome. I mean, in my next hashtag, I'm going to use the hashtag freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's what it's all about at the end of the day, I think.
Awesome. Well, I think that's about it. Thanks, awesome Anthony, for doing this interview with us. It took 4 weeks of delay to get this going from our side, but we are so glad that you were there. Always 20 minutes early.
Yeah.
Thank you. So.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This has been really fun. This is different. Like I don't usually get the rapid questions and those sorts of things. So this has been really fun. Thank you for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here, Anthony. Till next time, guys. Bye for now.